Welcome back. Nice to see you again. For those who don't know me, my name is Lauren Heistad. I am the author to the book Homecoming. And I've been working through reading the entire compilation of my 3 books, now found within one huge ass volume, Homecoming. We're almost to the end of the second book. That's very exciting. My second book, originally called Evolving Your SOULworks. I always said that the speaking or reading my story, reading my first book was a promise to myself. Reading the second book was a promise to my higher self. True. And I'm almost there. Okay. Chapter 45. Past meets present. So with my road trip well underway, remember my road trip? I was going back to the ceremony location. Okay. So I arrived before the rest of the group to spend time within the original ceremony locations. The west representing the life of Mary Magdalene, the east representing the life of Yeshua, the center point representing the old systems and outdated vibrations, the south representing the anchors to change, and the north representing the combined energy force of the masculine and feminine energies, and the location of my one-day emotional adventure. That's putting it mildly. One-day emotional adventure. Or lifetimes, but anyways, while living out portions of Isaiah. Strangely, I didn't even want to spend very much time in any of the areas. Nope, not my valley, not the original center point, nowhere. In my mind, it represented the past and old, outdated stories. I definitely needed a new one. And so I found my very own happy place along the prairie landscape and utilized the time and space to make a few personal declarations for new beginnings. Now, of course, my guides cited scripture again, and I easily found the references of what I had just said and done in Isaiah yet again. This time, though, I wasn't afraid. I just felt peace and closure. Now, later that day, in a small town in southern Saskatchewan, I met up with some of the original ceremony group. We bonded for the first day, getting to know each other better and gaining each other's trust, basically, and understanding. When I eventually told the group why I had come and energetically called the team together, everyone just got it. They just got it. There was no hesitation. There was no disbelief, only validation of what they themselves had experienced and felt over the last year. It was yet another amazing encounter of being accepted and heard for who I was, with no expectations, no competition, which was nice, or criticisms of that reality. There wasn't. And once again, my biggest fears were proven wrong, as I openly and wholeheartedly was accepted by the group. I'm very thankful for that. That night, the building where we were staying was very active with spirits. It felt like someone was hammering all night long and moving things around. At one point, I actually assumed I must have offended the spirits for claiming my role. I did. I thought I offended them, and I apologized if I had caused any upset or wrongdoing. I also went out into the hallway and tried to clear this energy in the hopes of eventually getting some sleep. At some point, I realized the spirits just wanted me to understand how much work had been done by everyone to in preparing for that upcoming day, building the facility, holding the space for this event to occur. And I thanked them for their contributions, and we all finally quieted down for a much needed night of rest. In the morning, another one of the ladies confirmed having witnessed the same phenomenon. She heard construction noises all night, saw scaffolding falling, and was overall very aware of the late night visitors and their abundance of activities. In the morning, we headed to another small town in Saskatchewan. I had never been there, but was following the guidance of someone within our group who was keenly aware that we had to go visit the chapel. A chapel. A little out of my comfort zone, but yeah, we went. And I must admit, I was hesitant because I've always found church settings hard to handle. Of course I have. I can only assume the hesitation was because of the life of Yeshua being hung on display, and grossly miscommunicated beyond comprehension, causing more holy wars, conflict, and division in this world than humanly fathomable. Fact. The life of Mary Magdalene and wife of Yeshua had been downplayed and downgraded by religious systems to the category of whore status. I says pardon. While also contributing to the complete removal of the divine feminine energy by a masculine-dominated anarchy. However, despite my apprehensions of visiting the chapel, I did want to be a good sport. I did. And more obviously, I needed to heal my own personal frustrations and ties to the religious systems. Clearly. So as we rolled into town, I was actually startled by my reaction that day because I began to cry. I had no idea why my reaction was so big, but I've learned to follow and trust the areas that do create huge emotional charges in my life. As we walked into the sanctuary that day, I fell to my knees and sobbed. This church was built in honor of the divine feminine. in all things. Not just one person, the divine feminine in all things, as well as discreetly honoring the Mary Magdalene story for those with eyes to see. Although perhaps hidden in the unique architectural design and subdued painting, this sanctuary was one of the simplest, yet grandest and most authentic buildings I had ever seen. And the building's history? Now there's a story. The beautiful sanctuary was built in the 1900s by a priest who originally came from France. France, of course, being the safe haven of Mary Magdalene. The door to the chapel was built facing the west. And also as per the symbolic placement of the Mary Magdalene life at the ceremony, actually, right, on the wheels. At one point, the church literally burnt to the ground. As per my cited biblical reference and personal fears, very large fears, of my own SOULworks sanctuary being burned. It was eventually rebuilt with the door facing to the north, as per both biblical accounts and my own ceremonial experience of combining Yeshua and Mary Magdalene in the valley, in the north. However, during construction of the church, the wind blew down part of the building and scaffolding, as per our visions, and visitors of the spirit world the night prior. And most shockingly was the pilgrimage on July 16th of every year to honor the feminine, as per my personally allotted 1335th day of July 16th, 2016, of which I was fully aware was going to happen, yet not sure what was happening. The evidence to my accounts were stacking up, as they do. It was becoming very clear and obvious where my group would assemble in the weeks to come. Now, further to the actual chapel was a unique statue that adorned the front of the church. It too had a unique historical background, called Our Lady of Pity. The 15th century antiquity carved statue within worm-eaten wood has stood the test of time. Successfully hidden away during the Inquisition so as not to be destroyed, the statue was eventually shipped from France to Saskatchewan in the early 1900s. The carving barely made the ship voyage across the rocky seas, not because of the violent storms of the ocean, but because of the frightened passengers and sea crew who wanted to throw the statue overboard for suspicions of it being evil. Once in the Saskatchewan prairies, it was shipped back to France by mistake, and then once again had to make that long voyage a second time overseas to its final resting place in Saskatchewan. At one point, the statue was relegated to the basement of the church. As flames burned the original structure to the ground, ropes had to be used to pull the statue up out of the basement and place it into safety. In the new chapel, the statue sits as a monument at the front of the church, silently defending her territory and the battle she has come through to get there. Me too. Now I realize the bulk of society believes this statue to be Yeshua and his mother. However, both my emotional reaction to the statue and the age depicting of the woman beg to differ. Both the sanctuary and the statue have caused great conflict in the community over the years, with some saying it was evil. In fact, the town was originally called Notre Dame, meaning our mother, but was changed over the years because of the upheavals. Fascinating, isn't it? Now, my group spent time within both the sanctuary and also at the monument structure located on a hill just outside of town. Here, Mary is depicted with a crown of 12 stars on her head and standing on a simple log, I believe to represent a tree life, even if cut out of it. I cannot even explain the impact and healing both locations had for my soul. It was like coming home and finally being accepted into the fold. Evolving your soul works. There are two things at work here about fears and associations with evil that I find interesting, to say the least. First of all, my guides have always shown me how the feminine energy has been depicted in the Bible as evil, as an evil beast, and given the number 666. The masculine energy, and Yeshua in particular, was depicted as a savior role, having the numerological association with his name of 888. The distinction alone between the two energies explains my confusion of living out almost all accounts of the book of Revelation, and my confusion as to who or what I represented. I was told balance would be restored when the feminine was no longer depicted as evil, and when the weight of the world was no longer solely placed on any one person, but collectively on everyone. They also showed me that balance between those two lives would bring my own inner peace. Balance begins at 777. My guides continuously echoed through my mind. Now that day, I realized that July 16/16, the date that pinpointed my 1335th day, and the exact day the annual pilgrimage was numerologically 777. And it's also been brought to my attention more recently that is exactly the number of pages that ended up being in my book. That did feel like balance restored. Now, secondly, there have been many fear and evil-based doctrines associated with honoring the feminine energy. In this small town scenario alone, winds wreaked havoc on the construction of the building. Storms and waves crashed down on the boat during the transportation of the statue. Fires burned original structures. Roadblocks appeared. And overall, a whole lot of conflict surfaced within the community. Even on the day my group arrived, The winds howled to such an extent that it felt like a witch's coven had blown in from the east with opposition from unseen dark forces, all of which have been blamed on the feminine focus for both the sanctuary and the shrine. I see why people have moved into fear. I do. Now, in my first book, Activating Your Soul Works, I explained how we have the capacity to affect the weather and our current realities with our thoughts and intentions. Of course we do. Consciously with our mind, we can calm a storm and bring peace to our dimension. Unconsciously, through fears and ego, we create chaos and upheaval. Therefore, instead of blaming the feminine aspect for the upheaval, I propose another theory. As I have watched dark forces try to silence my own story over the years, one can only assume these forces have been working for a very long time. And when I talk dark forces, I am once again referring to the collective conscious state of the current belief systems, fears, shadowy intentions, and structures that are both consciously and unconsciously trying to keep things status quo. Suffice it to say, the lower vibrations are quite happy to keep things as is. Now there's evidence all over the world of the balance finally starting to be restored. Not just with the Mary Magdalene story, but with many others before that. Of course. You think she was the only woman silenced over time? Not even close. I have witnessed ancient documentation surfacing, understandings coming forward, stories being told, artifacts being uncovered, and many, many truths that have been buried for centuries coming to the surface. I'm also intrigued to watch the upheaval it is creating. We may be in rough waters right now, and storms are definitely brewing. But I know clarity, calm, and harmony are on the way. The dark holds no power over light. The dark holds no power over light. Suppressed knowledge holds no power over wisdom and truth. Fact. Remembering back to the sleepless night before we arrived at the sanctuary, I can't help but be grateful. So very grateful for all the lives and work that has gone into making the truths resurface. Lifetimes after lifetimes have been spent by us and our ancestors helping to ensure society utilizes this window of opportunity to vibrationally move into change. From that perspective, it is an amazing accomplishment and victory to see this time finally arrive. Your move. Embrace your fears. Love your fears for what they are, indicators of change. Do not suppress them. Do not let them grow and grow into terrifying monsters of frozen potential or huge storms of destruction, see them for what they are and move forward anyway. Shed light on those old, outdated fears and embrace a new reality. Secondly, give credit where credit is due. Take your own life's work into account and give credit for all the synchronicities, hard work, and dedication that has defined your path. Honor the divine dance that continues to grow and expand as your reality does. Acknowledge those in your past that have helped get you there. Give thanks even to those who seemingly worked against you along the way. In truth, their resistance to your change only provided you with the strength and resilience to keep going. Thank you. Honor the past. Learn to love and honor the past and your contributions to it. Each moment has helped to create the world we are in today. That includes every race, religion, creed, man, woman, child, event, belief system, and experience. Collectively, we all have added to our history, and collectively, we are all responsible to create a new and better story. Fact. There's no sense dwelling on what has already been done regarding seeming injustices in the world or misguided endeavors from our past. Rather, make use of the wisdom gained. Make peace with the places in your life that still cause turmoil and show compassion for all choices that have been made along the way. Show compassion. Okay, lovingly release pent-up energy. Holding our emotions inward creates disharmony. At an extreme level, this suppressed energy can make us like lethal weapons, lethal energetic weapons, ready to explode upon impact. I'd love to say I have shed enough tears in the past few years, more than a decade, to cleanse the entire world. I would. In truth, I've only started to delve into the depths of my own soul works. Each person needs to lovingly release their own pent-up emotions, turmoil, upsets, and give forgiveness. Each person needs to express and expand upon their own energetic footprint that is their soul. And finally, merge with the now. I fully believe that we are all aspiring to merge the past, present, and future creations of our soul into one divine being in the now. By bringing forward our past awareness into the present moment, we're not only honoring who we are or where we came from, but we are enabling ourselves to stand in our true greatness and divinity. I assure you, we have all played many roles in this performance we call life, not all of which have been good. That's for everybody. not all of which has been good, but some that have been just absolutely amazing. A truly great actor or actress will develop skills from their past performances, bringing together all they have learned to create one unified, harmonious, and glorious role, striving for the performance of a lifetime at any given opportunity. How's your life performance taking shape? Have you started to piece together the workings of your own soul? I'll see you there. Thank you once again for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.